Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your off-season edition of the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for Monday, the 29th of April, 2019. I hope your week is starting out great. It's nice here in southeast North Carolina. Not quite 80 degrees, sun is shining, a warm and dry week ahead, and that'll give me an opportunity to finish up the 2018 Tracking the Hurricanes documentary based on last year, of course, mainly focused on Florence and Michael, and the lead up to those epic events and all the technology that we deployed and how that all turned out. It's a remarkable film, if I may say so myself. I'm almost finished with it, about 98%, and I've been watching it and reviewing it. I'm going to promote it and I'm going to hype it because I think it's definitely far and away my best work yet. And not just because of the video. Obviously the video is very impactful, but the overall production value. I do my own music and everything about it. The writing, I think, is really good this time. I'm very happy about it. So let's stop talking about that for now. I'll bring it up again later. I'm going to show you the poster art debuting today on the Outlook and discussion, what the poster for it's going to look like. But let's get to that in a few minutes. First, a quick look at the SOI. What I want to point out, look back in February. We were minus 14. March ended up about 8 points higher at minus 6. So far, as we end April, it's going to be about minus 2. Maybe minus 3, depending on what tomorrow's contributor is to the overall calculation. Bottom line, the SOI has generally been going in this direction, up, since the low there in February of negative 14. What does that mean? Well, in one sense, it helps to control what's happening out here in the tropical Pacific with the El Nino Southern Oscillation phenomenon, or just El Nino. And when you see the SOI rising, it's really difficult to sustain this warm event that we now have in place. It's a fairly weak warm event, a weak El Nino, and a rise in the SOI, that Southern Oscillation Index, which is the value of pressure readings between Tahiti and Australia down here in the southwestern Pacific. And that just, when you see it rising like that, that typically means the El Nino is not having a good time, put it that way. And we can see that by comparing it to a year, 4 years ago, when the SOI was consistently negative, and we really built up the warmth in the equatorial Pacific. You see the tropical Atlantic back then was much cooler than it is now. Yeah, here's 2019, here's 2015, and there is quite a marked difference. And I think that will continue. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel it. The intuition is there. And I can show you the evidence of that. We're going to address that next week. There's no reason to go into this in great detail every single week. For just a quick broad brush look at it, I do believe the El Nino is going to struggle. All right, looking at the actual sea surface temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico, still warming up along the shelf water area. It's getting there. You know, some of these areas near shore and, you know, into these bays around Texas, yeah, water temperatures are, you know, close to 75, 76 degrees Fahrenheit. Overall, though, as we talk about, the Gulf will definitely be warm enough by August and September, and into October this will all be plenty warm. No major surprises here. Looking at the anomalies just real quick, you do notice a good deal of the Gulf running below average, but that's super sensitive to a lot of different things with the atmosphere, and that can change in a heartbeat. Notice, too, that real quick, right here off of Africa, especially also near the equator, the Gulf of Guinea and vicinity, quite warm compared to the long-term average. And even the main development region, no areas of significant cooling that I can see on this particular data set anyway. So, yeah, we're almost there, just a few more weeks, and it's going to be time to start watching for potential activity. All right, looking off the coast of the mid-Atlantic, southeast, 26 Celsius isotherm creeping in, 25 Celsius up here, and the gradient. I talk about this often, the difference in temperature over distance, shrinking, not so much up here. It's a little, let's use a different color, maybe red. Red highlights a little bit better what I'm trying to illustrate. Still a pretty tight gradient between the north wall of the Gulf Stream and this very cold water of the northwest Atlantic. But near shore, That's about 20 degrees Celsius off of Cape Fear, a little bit warmer than that down off of Charleston, and we're talking 68, 69, 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Still too chilly for Mark, but it's getting there. All right, real quick, we're going to start looking at this at least once a week until we get into mid-May, and then we go to this on a basically daily basis, the update, because it's almost time. Hurricane season is not that far off, just a little over a month away. You see through the Caribbean, nice stiff breeze coming through there, trade winds nice and brisk, no tropical waves or at least that are convectively active. A little bit of a disturbance sitting here over the Bahamas and parts of the Greater Antilles. Puerto Rico, kind of hard to pick out on this. We'll let it start the loop over and then I can show you. There it is. Puerto Rico, U.S. British Virgin Islands, down through the Lesser Antilles over here. Just your scattered trade clouds. No major weather systems coming from the east in the form of tropical waves. It's a little early in the season, or the year for that. Not really hurricane season technically, but you see what I'm getting at. And in fact, you can see this dry, dusty air making its way off from the coast of Africa over here. And as the sun glint comes across, you see some of that dust and probable dry air moving through. But it's not long, not going to be long until we start looking at this more regularly, and of course that will include the Eastern Pacific as well. All right, so this is from Ben Knoll, one of my favorite people to follow. He is discussing the Madden-Julian oscillation, and basically follow this green right here. Okay, see how that goes across? We start out with it over parts of the Indian Ocean, which is where we have a strong cyclone that we may need to really pay attention to here in the coming days. And this green represents the upward motion in the atmosphere, or a favorable forcing mechanism that would allow for convection, tropical convection to form. So let's just stop it at the very beginning here, if it'll let me. Maybe if I get my pointer back. The nuances of the telestration program. All right, so we stop it here. Currently, the rising motion in the green area, generally over the Indian Ocean and Indonesia in vicinity. Red is generally sinking and not favorable for convective activity in the tropics or elsewhere. As this moves along, you see it starts to progress into the western and central Pacific over time, and this is coming out towards the first part of May, so just a few days from now, right? I think this is May 2nd. There's the 3rd, 8th, 10th, etc. Finally, at the end of the animation, look, we see the eastern Pacific, parts of North America, the landmass up here, and even, the Western Caribbean, Central America. When does this happen? This is right around mid-May if we finish the animation. I think that goes to May the 15th. May the 15th, that's the start of the Eastern Pacific hurricane season out here. So we'll see. That's going to be interesting. Maybe it starts to fire up what we call that Central American gyre. And this starts to get complicated, but basically you get these westerly winds coming in at roughly the surface, not quite, it's about 5,000 feet up. But you get this anomalous westerly wind coming in, and it helps the atmosphere turn and begin a broad rotation counterclockwise, that big gyre. We'll worry about this later, something to keep an eye on. But Ben Knoll getting my attention today as something to keep an eye on. And this could interfere constructively with the El Nino, because this westerly wind anomaly that accompanies this MJO will come across the tropical Pacific there and maybe help to trigger more warming. But I just don't think it's going to be enough. Too little, too late, and the forcing that goes on normally this time of year as the seasons change will overcome all that. But again, we'll revisit that sometime next week. All right, real quick, a look at the lower 48 weather, the convective outlook for the next couple of days or so. This is day 1, and we can see basically Tornado Alley is favored at the moment, with a slight risk in parts of Texas and not Louisiana, Oklahoma. We move ahead to day 2, which will be tomorrow. More of an enhanced risk inside of that slight risk, right in the heart of the alley. So I imagine quite a few more of the tornado chasers and storm spotters will be out there. Finally, by day 3, again in the heart of Tornado Alley, anywhere from Dallas up through Oklahoma City and southeast Kansas, parts of southwest Missouri, western Arkansas. You folks out here, you don't need Mark Sudduth to tell you, but I'm just going to remind you anyway because I care about you. Heads up. You're in the heart of severe weather season, and it's starting to crank once again. So just be mindful of that. Really, I want you to be around when this comes out, the Tracking the Hurricanes 2018 edition. There's the official artwork for it, the poster, mainly focused on Florence and Michael for obvious reasons. The whole movie, the whole film, the documentary will be just under 2 hours long, and the first chunk of it, maybe 15 to 20 minutes, will be all the build-up, the lead into it with a little bit of winter, a little bit of technology update, and then, of course, we had Alberto last May, Gordon after that, and then Lane in the Pacific. Actually, Lane was before Gordon, and then everything really started to ramp up from there. So this will be available soon. I will let you know. Obviously, our supporters that help to make this possible will have the first access. Some of our folks on Patreon and our HurricaneTrack Insider. Some folks are actually basically producers. They helped the financing of it through their support. So you bet they're going to be able to see it first. It just makes sense. I think you can understand that. And then I'm working on a better distribution center than better distribution system than I've ever had before to make this available for people to purchase it or rent it at a very nominal cost. DVDs, I don't know. I mean, who does those anymore? And I have to ship them, and I'll still probably offer a DVD for those that really want one. But otherwise, we're going to get advanced here, right, and join the world of digital distribution. And I'm still working on that. Stay tuned, but I wanted to show you the poster artwork here. Here's a close-up of it. Look at that aerial shot of Michael the morning after, and that storm surge shot there from our live camera that was set up in New Bern, North Carolina, ground zero for a good deal of the surge from Florence anyway. Florence affected most of the Carolinas east of I-95 and even west of there, but it was really a North and South Carolina event. That's the artwork. I'm so excited about it. I think you're really going to like it, and I can't wait to announce how you can get your hands on your copy. Real quick, I'll talk about this more and more, because if I don't, I'm just hurting myself. People encourage me. You got to talk about how to fund your work, Mark. Well, here it is. This is the main way. It's through Patreon, and we have 116 supporters right now, and we're trying to get this number right here up to about $7,000 a month. Now, before you flip out and say, man, I'd like to earn that much, that's not all for me. You have no idea how much it costs to do this. To just go out and do something like Michael is literally several $1,000s. And to be able to sustain this over time and start doing other things that we want to do, we got to get those numbers up, and we're getting there. I'm very, very happy about that and very proud that people are willing to support this on a monthly basis. And I'm actually getting ready to change things and make it even more affordable and more inviting with a couple of announcements. That's going to come on May the 15th. Just a whole bunch of really cool things coming up that, in the end, will help you better prepare, keep you better aware, filter out the noise. What do I really need to pay attention to? And, of course, the technology. Really keeping us on the cutting edge with the best technology available to not only show you and let you hear and see what happens with hurricanes, tropical storms, other weather events as they happen, but also to measure them from a meteorological perspective. Very important as well. And I got some things coming up in that realm as we go forward also. So this is the last of the off-season discussions for the month of April. Next week we will do this again on Monday or Tuesday, something like that. And by then I will know all about the distribution for the Tracking the Hurricanes 2018 edition. Be a big announcement, a big hoopla. I also will be showing it in a theater or two. I'll talk about that as well. I'm just absolutely excited about this. My best work to date, and I can't wait for you to see it. Details to follow, as they say. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with me on your side of the screen. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. We'll reconvene next week.